Let me start off with a screen share. Where is this image? All right. So it's actually the first time I'm using this software, Zoom. The download took forever, and for some reason I had some issues. Right. So here there is a picture of what the global economy looks like right now. And all right, so screen share. Okay, so if you guys can see this picture here, this pretty much shows us what has happened over the last 60 to 70 years. Now, before we begin, I would like to go ahead and do a short introduction. My name is Rizwan. I'm one of the pilot instructors for a global flight school, Airways Aviation Academy, with 7 flight training locations around the world, Australia and 4 in Europe. I am currently based in Airways Aviation Montenegro. I work as not only just as a flight instructor, but also the CTKI. I'm the Chief Theory Knowledge Instructor. I'm also the admissions and marketing person. So I've actually seen a lot of things happen in the last 10 to 15 years of my aviation career. But if I look back in the last 80, 60 to 80 years of aviation history, what I have literally noticed is the revenue generated by passengers traveling all around the world has only increased. Now, even if you look at some of the issues in the last couple of years, one of the most significant one, the oil crisis of 1972, it did create a lot of problems in the world. But if you look at the overall graph, it was only a tiny dent on a graph where it, it was an ever increasing graph. The Iran-Iraq war later on in the 1980s, the Gulf War in the 1992 and the 1990, that also created a significant impact on the world's economy, driven by the aviation, slowing down. But then again, eventually it took off once again. And as you see, during the 1996 and 1998, it skyrocketed until we were hit with the Asian crisis. And then that also slowed it down. Everybody, especially when the 9/11 attacks happened, that was one of the worst times in the aviation industry. And everybody thought 9/11 would really slow down aviation and would change the way the aviation industry and the world and the economy works. But to be surprising to many people around the world, the aviation industry and the world economy got back within no time. Well, it did take, I would say, a good 6 to 7 months, but then it skyrocketed once again. And over the next few years, it really kept going on. And this is where I want to stop. SARS. Now, when the previous, the virus, something similar to the corona crisis, the COVID-19 we have today, the most similar one which we could think of, SARS, obviously, very few people died compared to what has happened today. But the SARS outbreak did create a lot of panic in the aviation. The industry slowed down, the economy changed as well. But then again, it kept growing on and on. The world recession, obviously, the 2008 was one of the most notable ones. This is when I was in the center. I was in US back in 2008, and I've seen the world recession back in 2008, how deeply it affected the entire world. But again, that also changed quickly within the next. But also, what I'm trying to show here is that every time the world went through a dip, every time the aviation industry went through a small dip, it only came back with a lot more energy immediately the year after. So, my segment here, which I wanted to talk about today, was how aviation is the global feeder of economy. Now, every country around the world is heavily relying on aviation to generate revenue. It also relies on how passengers are, being transported. But most importantly, most important is, the way shipping is being done. Yes, we do rely on ships and the old sea routes for a lot of cargoes, but aviation has been one of the most important aspects for the critical supplies and so on. And even in today's market, when aviation has literally come to a standstill, we see that cargo industry is still doing very well. People are still using flying in aircrafts and the express shipments and so on for all the critical supplies. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, the global economy has come to a pause, but it is very much alive and it is going to emerge a lot more powerful. And that's what I would like to say. And with also some of the countries, especially myself, I've lived in UAE most of my life. I travel all around Europe because I have my offices, my branches of Airways Aviation in Montenegro, UK, Spain, and France. But living in Dubai, with family in Dubai, I can see how, especially countries like UAE, are so heavily relying on aviation for all of their revenues. A huge percentage of the uh, economy of some countries, especially like UAE and a few other who share a similar style of business, rely on aviation. So I don't want to be very negative, but yes, things do look really bad right now. Everyone is scared around the world with what's happening, airlines shutting down around the world. So it is really a scary time. What we're witnessing is definitely going to be, is going to be moved to the scrolls of history. I'm sure people are going to read about what's happening today in the world of aviation and how it has affected the economy. But I'm still looking at this as a very positive thing. I know that hopefully in the next few months things are going to get better. Most of the countries in Europe have started showing signs of the COVID-19 crisis hitting a peak point and then slowing down from there. I guess you guys saw the news yesterday where Boris Johnson was also saying in the UK that they've basically passed the peak time for the so things are going to start getting better. I would also tell you about some of the smaller countries, for example, right here in the Balkans. For example, Montenegro has actually started opening up all of their restrictions, so the economy is starting to get back to normal. And literally yesterday I was out on the streets and there was traffic jams, and there was literally people, it literally felt like April 2019. So things are getting back in some of the countries. So the good news is that the economy will be back. Aviation industry needs to get back to normal, but again, I can tell you it's never going to be normal again. Whereas what I'm trying to say is that it will have some implications on everyone. There will be more testing. With what I understand from my peers in the industry, there's going to be more testing involved. There's going to be more screenings involved. So just like what happened after 9/11, how airports had to come up with more security measures and then everything went back to normal a year later. So yes, for the first 6 months, there's going to be a lot more slower processing at the airports. You would be expected to go to an airport for an international flight at least 6 hours before your flight, not the standard 2 hours before the flight as we were used to, because there's going to be a lot of extra testings as well on the airport campus. So these are some of the things which I feel will be happening. But back to our main agenda today is how the economy has affected now. Just looking at uh, some of the biggest economies in the world. Let's talk about, for example, India. Now, India being one of the biggest democracies in the world, one of the the second largest population in the world. I have some of my family members in India, and I'm in touch with them, and I can see what's happening there as well. Um, they've shut down everything for weeks now, and definitely has started affecting the economy. Mostly, what I'm trying to say is that yes, even though aviation is one of the biggest industry which is driving the economy in the world, there are lots of countries where they are completely self-sufficient. They have everything they need within their borders, and still aviation plays a huge role in their economical development. And that's a very good example to look at. India, for example, where a lot of people rely on agriculture. Majority, 60 to 70% of the country's population relies on simple farming and agriculture and so on. And even they have been affected very much. And also, the biggest reason why I feel aviation is one of the biggest driving forces for the economy is because if you look at this chart once again, since the 1970s, what's happened is the aviation industry has grown immensely, and that has also been the exact same time when the global economies have increased. So if you look at the graph of how the aviation industry has increased, how the number of airlines have increased, the graph is exactly in synchronization. It's very proportional to the graph where it shows you how much money, how much economical improvements we've had over the last 30, 40 years. So that is some of the basic things I want to talk about. I would like to, open question answer rounds as well. And if anybody has any questions and we would like to discuss a certain topic, I'd be more than happy to go through that as well. Do you guys have any other questions with regards to how and or any inputs on how the global economy has been affected with aviation industry's downfall in the last few months? All right, I believe there's no questions. All right. That is one of the things I was talking about. And another very interesting topic I would like to share with you guys is about how the global economy is also relying on something which we never thought about. Like, for example, the healthcare supplies, and we never thought about how important this could have been. And today, when we realize that the masks or the ventilators are running out, we have literally had to scramble for it everywhere. And again, aviation industry is not completely at a standstill. Passenger aircraft have been modified, as you guys must have seen in the news. Passenger aircrafts have been modified and have been used to haul cargo. Literally, the passenger seats have been converted to put big boxes of stuff and strap them to the seats, and that has been used to ship around cargoes and so on. So the cargo industry is doing really well right now. So that is one of the very important pipelines which is keeping our economy running. Uh, that's thanks to all the healthcare workers and all the frontline workers who are volunteering and risking their own lives to keep the industry going, to keep the healthcare system working. And I would like to uh, end this chat online with a very positive note that the best is yet to come. People have all around the world started showing courage. They've also started understanding the severity of this virus, and they've all started staying home. And some of some of the people around the world have really come up with ingenious ways of connecting with people. And that's one of the things I feel this is something humanity is going to learn from, and hopefully moving forward, when the aviation industry goes back to where it was, it's not just going to go back to where it was, it's going to in fact get much better. And we're going to look at a graph like this 10 years down the line, where we will see right next to this graph where it talks about the world recession and 9/11 and the Asian crisis, you're going to see the COVID-19 crisis, where, yes, the graph will show you a significant drop, but it will also be followed by a steep climb of, aviation increasing the revenue and the economy all around the world. Thank you so much for listening. And if you guys have any questions, I would like to take some of your questions right now. If not, then I would like to wish all of you guys safety and security all around the world. And I really hope everybody gets through this. Stay strong and stay safe. Stay indoors, and I'm sure we'll get through this really quickly. Thank you so much.